Do people care about me? I don't want my life to waste away. It's never enough. You're never perfect enough. You've never achieved enough. I don't want my life to be worth nothing. Mattering, I think, is at the core of what drives us every day. So glad to have you here. I feel like we've built a little community already, and that makes me really happy because then I feel like I'm talking to actual people. And I've kind of been thinking recently, like, I'm not just talking to a camera, like, I'm talking to actual people who are watching this. And I love people, and so, like, I want to be loving in how I talk to you guys and how I reach you and communicate with you. Obviously it's hard because you're not talking back. That's what the comment section is for. But I feel like regardless, even if you guys aren't responding, I do want to talk in a way that is loving and gracious and not just like I'm lecturing and so nobody wants someone who's just going on and on and on and like, people might be listening, people might not be listening, but like I want this to be like almost like a dialogue, but obviously one-sided, where I care for you. And so I've been thinking about that recently. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope that you stay and join us for the ride. Obviously, so I have a little tickle in my throat. Obviously, I am a newer channel, and I am grateful to those of you who have already subscribed and want to hear what I have to say and want to live life with me and ponder thoughts with me. So, anyways, I went to the gym this morning, just showered. I generally don't do a lot of like styling to my hair. Because it is naturally really straight, and like I think the more I style it, just like the worse it looks. Unless I'm going to an event, like maybe I'll curl the ends of my hair or something like that. But for the most part, I don't really touch it. I used to blow dry it more, but I think just as I've gotten older, I'm like, I just don't need any heat on my hair. But that just also means like it gets frizzy when I dry it in the summer. When I air dry it in the summer. So forgive me for the wet, maybe frizzy looking hair. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad on camera compared to in person. But guys, I'm excited. I'm really excited because I am starting a new series. I'm starting a series on the human heart. And that might sound really like medical and scientific, but I realized, like, I think that is what I want to talk about. That is, or sorry, not the science and medical of it, but like there are some psychology pieces of it, right? Like why we desire the things we desire, why we fear the things we fear, why we think we need certain things in life, and why we need those things. I think, so there is like a psychological kind of twist on it. Maybe that's just the way I think and the way I receive the world, right? Like I think a lot about like why, how, and so inevitably we're going deeper beneath the surface. So I think the human heart, but it's also not just scientific. It's also like, this is not a science podcast by any means. Like this is more of a like deep thought, faith, some psychological twists on it, I guess. But I'm really excited for this series just because like I really enjoy a series. I really enjoy kind of having different chapters of a overarching umbrella topic. And I chose the human heart specifically because, I mean, you already heard me say it. Like, I am so curious about like why we yearn and why we long and why we strive. And our lives are precious, right? Like, our days are counted. We don't know like when we'll go. We don't know what is planned for us in the future. And so we need to take each day seriously, like why waste your life away? And so these are really important questions for me and that I've really enjoyed diving into in my personal life. And I think this series is just going to give some structure to my thoughts. And I'm just, super excited for each of these parts of the series. I hope you tag along and see what else is to come. So, the first episode of this series is titled The Desire to Matter. Now, let's pick apart some of these words. So, desire, obviously it means we are wanting something. It's almost like maybe we can't live without that something. So, we are grasping, we are clinging on, we don't want to lose something. That's kind of like the essence of desire, right? And to matter in the specific definition of the word is very worth oriented, right? Do I have value? And that can mean like objectively, like maybe we think objective value and objective mattering is like we contribute to society. We add like some sort of functional aspect, or we better society. Like our lives are worth it because it's good for other people and communities and structures and systems. And then on a personal level, mattering is also, maybe one of these will resonate more with some people and the other will resonate more with other people. So one is the functional aspect of mattering. And then the second aspect of mattering is the personal level of mattering to people. Like, do people care about me? Would people notice if I were gone? And sometimes we feel lonely because maybe we fall off the face of the earth for a little bit, or we're going through something and we realize, no one's reached out, right? And that, can foster a sense of, wow, maybe I don't add value, a personal value to my relationships. Maybe people don't care. Mattering, I think, is at the core of what drives us every day, right? Maybe some people are really driven and want to be productive. Those are good things. Working hard is a good thing, but maybe a negative part driving that is like, well, I don't want my life to waste away. Like, I don't want my life to be worth nothing. Like, if I didn't feel productive today, that means like it's not worth living. And it's not always that deep, but there's always that root to some sort of fear or insecurity of like, am I not smart enough? Am I not like accomplishing enough? Am I not showing people like, and a lot of it is proving yourself to other people, right? Proving yourself to your boss, maybe proving yourself to your team that you add value and that you are indispensable. So anyways, the desire to matter, that's an introduction on that. And I'm so excited to pick apart the different pieces of this topic. I want to do a little bit of like, just trying to really envision and feel and talk through what it feels like to have these fears, what it feels like to yearn and to long. Like, I really want you to join this journey with me of like really embody these feelings, not just talking about them objectively, but being like, oh wow, I really have felt this way a lot in my life, and kind of picking that apart. So let's get started. I have my notes in front of me and just kind of some guidelines that'll help steer the ship so I'm not just rambling forever and ever. But let's start with, what does achievement feel like? Right? So like, let's indulge. What does achievement feel like? And I have, a few categories here of types of achievement, right? So let's like think about, how do we measure our worth? How do we measure the level of achievement we've made so far in our lives. And so I think one is specific accomplishments, right? Whether that's a specific educational degree, whether that's a specific title in your career, like a role title, whether that's awards, whether that's being recognized in top rankings of things, or, things like that. And they're usually titles and accomplishments that we like to link to our name, right? So we'll want to accentuate that on a resume. When people ask, what are you all about? You'll want to say, yeah, well, this is actually the biggest thing I've done in my life, right? Like, we want to attach ourselves to those biggest accomplishments, awards, degrees, titles. That makes us feel good, right? It feels good to achieve something. It feels good to be like, I'm worth something. I got that award. Other people thought that I should get this award, which means I matter. People didn't just overlook my work. People didn't overlook the value that I added. They noticed my value, and they affirm it by giving me an award, or giving me a job position, or being accepted into some program or school or something like that. Now, next, for what it feels like to achieve, is approval, right? This is like day-to-day, it can be day-to-day approval. Whether someone's like, hey, I really like the outfit you're wearing, or like, you look really cleaned up today, and it's like, wow, they think I look good today. Like, people notice. It's nice to feel noticed. Or maybe it's a friend thing, it's a social thing, where people decide they want to be friends with you, and you're like, wow, I'm worth being friends with. People value my company. People think I'm funny. People enjoy being in my presence. Like, that's also very validating. Feels like an achievement, right? Feels like I matter. And then relationships. So this is more specific on maybe a romantic relationship or a specific friendship, where even if you've already, quote unquote, won them over, right? Even if you are already friends with them, even if you're already dating this person or whatever, you're still seeking that reassurance, right? It's almost never enough. It's like, has the nature of our relationship or our friendship changed, and maybe this friend doesn't want to keep me in their life anymore? Or just seeking validation from a romantic partner too. Like, well, they've already chosen to be with me, but maybe on a given day I don't look super great, or on a given day, like, maybe I showed a weakness or a failure. Like, do I still matter to them? Do they judge me? So these are different ways to measure our worth on a day-to-day level. So when we have an accomplishment, we're like, wow, people saw my work ethic and my value. When people comment on my clothing and my likability and my humor, it's like, wow, people like me and my personality. Like, that feels great. Like, I'm not a weirdo. Or in relationships, when a friend reaffirms me and says, thank you for being such a good friend. Like, I want to keep you in my life the rest of my life. That's also, wow, I matter to them. Like, these are all things that give us a boost of joy and of feeling like we're worthy and that we matter. And another thing too is like image. And it feels nice to be like, oh, the vast majority of people, when they see my profile on social media, when they hear my name, they think of really positive things. Like, oh, like, she is so beautiful. Or like, oh, I've heard her name. She like did XYZ in her career. Like, I wish I could be like her. So these people don't know maybe the insides, the private parts, the personal parts of our story. But there is a certain image maybe associated with your name, and that also gives you a boost of like, wow, when a new person hears my name and someone who knows me is like, Emily. You gotta get to know her. Like, she has done this, and you're gonna learn this, and she is so lovable. And I'm not saying that people think that about me. I'm just trying to give an example. But these are all things that, we associate our worth with, right? They make us feel like we matter. And now we gotta pause there, because when is it ever gonna be enough? Every day we seek this sort of validation. We seek this affirmation of, like, we almost like wake up in the morning with this insecurity of like, I'm not worth anything. And we go out into the world and we try to find evidence of why we're worth something. It's just never going to be enough. Because when you think about certain achievements, right? Let's talk about those like awards and job positions and degrees. The goalposts will keep on moving, right? Like, whether you're in the academic sphere and you've gotten your undergraduate degree, but you're like, no, I must get a PhD. And once you get your PhD, you're like, no, I must get, I don't know what it is, fellowship, a tenure. Like, it's never going to be enough. You're always going to feel like you're behind. You're always going to feel like there's more to measure up to. When you do have the friends and the people maybe 5 years ago, you'd be like, wow, I can't believe I have so many friends. Suddenly it's not enough. Suddenly you see other people that you're like, wow, no, they're cool. I want to be friends with them. I want them to think I'm cool. And suddenly the friends that you have no longer matter as much, right? Like, the goalposts are always moving. It's never enough. You're never perfect enough. You've never achieved enough. Like, I think a lot of successful people, like, they want more. They want more. It's never enough. And I think ultimately it lands in this topic of insecurity, right? If we have those insecurities, that root of insecurity is always going to be there, regardless of how much you achieve. And so you're not solving the root problem of your insecurity by putting on these band-aids of achievements and approvals and people's comments about you that are really positive. Like, these are band-aids that all fall off really easily. If that insecurity is still there, it's going to fester, and it's going to continue to move your goalposts, because nothing is ever going to be enough. And so the next topic that I want to bring up is that a lot of why we strive for achievement and winning over approval and things like that is that there's fear. And this is kind of like a psychological piece of it too. It's like, well, no, I don't fear anything. I'm not scared of anything. I want to be productive. I want to work hard. I want to get all these, accomplishments on my resume. I want a lot of people to like me. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there is truly nothing wrong with working hard and being likable and having friends, obviously. But it becomes an issue when you need it. And when you need the next thing, you need the next friend, you need the next feeling of accomplishment. And that need is coming from this fear of does my existence not have any meaning? Like, do I not have any meaning as a person? Do I not bring anything to this world? And do I not bring anything to my friend community? And we fear, do people love us? Are we worth something? And so that's the thing about achievements, because achievements will document all the things that we've done, but it will never prove who we are. It will never make us feel this deep sense of peace, of belonging, of mattering. So I think that the reason why people, including myself, do tend to chase achievements and approval, I don't think all of it is just driven by wanting to succeed. Some of it is wanting success, like personal success, but I think a lot of it is also just wanting reassurance that our existence has meaning, that we are worth something, that people recognize us. And so to go back to those 4 things I described at the beginning, achievement, approval, relationships, and self-image. Each of these things we strive for because of a fear of something. So, why do we strive for achievement? Because we fear failure. We fear that people see that we don't measure up to that degree that we have, that we don't measure up. Like maybe we got a job and we want to keep proving to them, you know, it's worth it that you hired me, right? And you feel this deep sense of shame if you feel like you don't measure up to that. You don't want to fail. You don't want to let people down. And then we also chase approval because we fear rejection. We don't want to realize, oh, there's something in me that people don't like. Like that just puts a pit in your stomach, right? And then when it comes to relationships, a lot of times we do have this insecurity of, do I matter to this person? Do I matter to this person? Because we're scared to lose that person. We're scared to lose the relationship. And what is that fear? What is the root insecurity of that? Is that we fear that we're unlovable. We fear that especially a romantic relationship, also friendships, but I think particularly romantic relationships where you're spending a lot of time together, you're really digging into like the deep nitty-gritty things of your past, your history, your desires, your fears, like your weaknesses do end up showing to the person that you're in a romantic relationship with. And as you are unveiling those things, and hopefully you are unveiling those things, because if you keep those close to your chest, that's just, you're bound for disaster because you're not showing your whole self to this person that maybe you want to spend the rest of your life with. So definitely I don't advise that. But as you're unveiling some of those weaknesses, some of your past failures and your mistakes, that root fear and insecurity of maybe they won't love me anymore. Maybe this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Maybe I am not worthy to be loved. And so that's a lot of times why we strive for people's approval, specifically in relationships, in an unhealthy way. And then finally, the fourth thing, when it comes to self-image, why do we tire ourselves out by maintaining this self-image, right? I think especially social media, I think, is the main vehicle in which this occurs these days. But like, why do we try to maintain this like level of perfection and likability? And it's truly only a version of ourselves. And unless you're using AI or like heavy editing tools, like that's still us, right? That's still a picture of me. That's still a picture from our vacation, our trip. Like maybe we're not faking anything, but we are showing a version of ourselves, right? And that is a fear of like people wouldn't like the real me if I showed all versions of myself. And so that's why we tirelessly try to hold up this facade of when people think of Emily, when people talk about Emily, when people see Emily, when they see my social media, they think all these pretty, perfect things. Because if they saw the non-pretty, non-perfect things, maybe they'd think that I don't matter. Maybe they'd think I'm not worth following. Maybe they'd think I'm worth nothing. So far, we have covered what it feels like to achieve, why yearning for achievement is a dead end, why it's never enough, why the goalposts are always moving. And then thirdly, what are the root fears and insecurities that drive this sense of needing to prove ourselves, of needing to want to know that we matter to our work, to our friends, to our family, to our community. And now I want to get into what is the difference between your significance as a person, your value as an individual, and your worth, like your core worth as a human being, versus your performance in this world. The things that you do, the people that like you, the things that you have won, the image you have built up for yourself. So in order to get into this topic, I want to ask, myself and I want to ask you guys, what have you been doing or using to prove that you matter? Think about when you wake up in the morning, what thoughts are going through your mind? Is it physical beauty? Is it, and this applies to both men and women, right? Like, do you have insecurities? Do you look in the mirror and you're like, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough? And because you're not this or that enough, you're not worth loving. You're not worth anything. And if only you had this or that, you would be worth more. Or if you feel like you didn't work enough in a day, or accomplish enough in a day, or feel productive enough in a day, do you feel like a failure? Do you feel like a good for nothing? Do you feel like a fraud? I think often, like, especially if you're in school, or even if you're working for a certain business, it's like sometimes you feel like a fraud or imposter syndrome, because you're like, I actually can't do this. I actually can't do as much in a day as I wanted to. I actually can't push myself hard. I actually can't do what I signed up for. I can't do what I was hired for. I can't do what I was accepted into this program for. Or if for you, it's more of a social thing. Are you going around trying to win people's approval, win people's attention? What are you doing in order to win that? Are you changing parts of yourself? Are you hiding parts of yourself? Are you putting on this sort of personality or character that is not who you are, that's actually quite fake and actually quite manipulative? And not maybe you didn't want to manipulate people, but maybe you're starting to manipulate people because you're insecure about the fact that people might not like you if you're just acting the way that you are at the core of yourself. So I want this self-reflection to be about, jot down a list of things of, what are you doing? What are you using? How are you changing yourself? Or what thought processes are going through your mind where you are trying to prove that you matter? You are trying to prove that you matter to yourself or to others. And now the next self-reflection is, we often hold things tightly. Like, we often have a strong grip on our self-image, on our accomplishments and our resume, because we're scared to live a life without them. We're scared to imagine a life without these things. And so this exercise is about, envision if all of the things you like to boast about in yourself were taken away. Is it your college degree, where you went to school? Is it your athletic performance and maybe awards you've gotten in the athletic space? Is it how fast you've climbed a career ladder at your company and maybe you're the youngest person to be managing director or something like that? Take these greatest accomplishments in your life and erase them. Imagine you never did them. Imagine you never got there. Imagine it could somehow be easily taken away from you. How would you define your value? Does that change? And if that changes, we got to do something about that. We all have to think about, if how I see myself and my value and how much I matter as a human changes if I take away some of the things that I would like to brag about, then that means my definition of mattering, my definition of my self-worth is completely wrong. And this is also a good exercise because we often actually don't realize how tightly we're clinging on to our accomplishments and the things we've done in the past and the name we've made for ourselves until we lose them, until we imagine that if they were taken away from us, until we pretend, what if I had nothing to do with all of these greatest things I've done in my life? And then that's when we realize, wow, if I imagine these things being taken away from me, I now realize the weight of them. I now realize how much I want them associated to my name. And so this is a good exercise to do because We live our lives with these hidden agendas, with these hidden roots of fears and insecurities, and we don't realize how, like, we think, oh, I don't fear anything, I don't have any insecurities. But then if someone's about to take away this award I got, and I'm like, no, give it back, that's part of my self-worth, that's how I define myself, then I'm like, oh boy. Once I've thought about that being taken away, now I'm realizing how important that was to me and how I define myself. And now, final exercise in this self-reflection section is another pretend scenario. Pretend you have everything you could have ever wanted. Every achievement, every athletic award, educational, academic award, career award. You have all the friends in the world. You're best friends with the person you want to most be friends with, and no one hates you, and you walk into the room and everyone oohs and ahs at you. Like, whatever that dream scenario is for you, imagine you have it. How would you live your life differently, having that dream scenario already attained versus right now? So if you imagine having all the security in the world, right? Like, no one could ever dislike me. No one could ever fail me. Anything I try, I win at. I never make mistakes. Imagine that dream scenario and the type of security you'd have. You would never fear failing. You would never fear other people disliking you. How would you behave? How would you live your life? Wouldn't you live your life completely differently compared to if you did have fears and insecurities driving you every day? Because then you would have conversations and not be trying to win people over. You'd be doing your work and trying to work hard, but you wouldn't fear failure. You wouldn't fear that, oh, this person's no longer going to be impressed with me, or my life is worth nothing. No, because you already know your life is worth something. No one could ever disagree with you. No one could ever say you're a failure. Now imagine you could have that mindset right now without having to achieve all those things in your dream scenario. Because we can. We can live with that strong security. We can live with a sense of mattering that is not tied to our performance, that is not tied to what we have or have not done in our lives. So imagine how you would live your life so differently if you took that security with you everywhere, if you carried security. And so now, to get to the crux of this podcast, to get to the crux of why we strive for proof that we matter, this all comes back to faith. This comes back to, do you believe that you have worth? Do you believe that, I think a great way, I guess, for myself to envision this is the value that I had in the womb, the value that I had when I was first born, is the same amount of value that I have right now sitting here on my bedroom floor, right? And think about it. When I was a baby, before I was even born, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to school. I didn't get grades. I didn't have a career where I was working my butt off to impress. I didn't care about my social standing. I didn't do anything to make people like me. Yet I am not of any more or less value now compared to then. And so this kind of gets at, do you believe that you have core value? Right? Do you, and not just like, oh, I'm a human, so I must have some sort of value. Or maybe I think a lot of people who do have some, basic set of morals or values in their life that they live by, then maybe they're like, yeah, I guess it makes sense that I'd have value. Like, of course I have value. Like, I think it does come by, like, nature for us as humans, regardless of whether we're Christian or whatever religious beliefs. It's like there is some second nature of like, oh yeah, I think I have value. Like, I'm a unique person, right? But why do we live our lives? Like, why would you maybe think that you have unique value and then go about your life in a way that's proving to yourself and everyone else that you matter, right? Like, if we were secure in our value, then we would live so differently. We would not be trying to prove ourselves. We would just be working hard. I think I said this already, working hard, but not with fear of failure. Loving people, but not for fear of their response and whether they like us or not. Because we know that even if we do fail, even if we aren't liked by a certain person, even if we feel like we have nothing to show for on our resume, guess what? My value has not changed. My worth has nothing to do with my performance. And so now I want to truly hone in on what the Bible says about our worth. God has created us with intrinsic worth. God has given us an identity that is in Christ, that has to do with the person of Jesus and doesn't have to do with what I myself do or do not do with my life. And so instead of a I need to prove myself type of mindset, the Christian mindset is I already matter. And that changes how I live. I live with security. I live as a result of already knowing that I matter. I don't go out into the world trying to chase a reasoning, an explanation for why I matter. I already know that I matter. I already know that God has created me so perfectly and so intentionally. And so your identity comes before your accomplishments. And that is utmost freedom from what I can see. This is so freeing because think about it. If you feel like a failure, or even if you truly do objectively fail, right? Whether it's on a test or you made a big mistake at work, or, one person decides that they don't want to be friends with you, our sense of value would plummet. And imagine if all of those happened on the same day, right? This is what gives us anxiety. This is what gives us depression. This is what gives us the feeling of feeling like a nobody. Is we have these failures and then they get so big in our brains and we attach our worth to them, and then suddenly it's why is it worth living? Nobody likes me. I can't do anything right? So when there's failure, when we aren't accepted by the world, suddenly our value plummets. And so when you already know that you have a God-given identity, when those things happen in your life, your value stays the same. Your value is stable. It doesn't go down when everything else goes down. And on the other hand, when you do have successes in life, in whatever realm that you want to have success in, you may think, oh, this success boosts my identity. This success boosts my value to the world. But what happens when that comes down? That success is not always, is not forever. Also, it's never going to feel like enough. That maybe the first day you feel success is going to feel like you're on top of the world. But people forget about it, I think that's why people want to leave a legacy, right? They don't want to just have success in one day. They want to have success forever. They want people to look at their name and say, that was a person of success. But people forget about you. And is that a scary thought to you when you think people forget about the things that I've done? So this is for people who feel like they've succeeded a lot in life and their value is boosted because of that. It's not going to be there forever. It's fading. And how tiring is it as well to have to maintain this level of success? So maybe you succeed on the first project. I don't know, whatever work you're doing. You succeed on the first project. What about the second project? Are you going to feel like you fear failing that second project because now you have an image to maintain because the first project you succeeded? What if the second project you don't? Or the second project you succeed, and what about the third project? You see how it is exhausting. Whether it is that you feel like a failure and your value plummets, or you feel like a success and you feel like you have to maintain that image of success, all of it is exhausting, all of it is depleting, and all of it is very unstable. So at the end of the day, when we talk about, keeping your eye on the prize and succeeding, at the end of the day, I don't want my goal to just be success, because that's not going to give me security in my value or my worth. I want to keep my eye on the prize, which is to remember that God loves me and that I have an identity already that no one else can disprove. No one else can tell me that I don't matter, or that I'm not worth it, because God has given me my body and my brain and has created me and knitted me to be in this specific format. And he has given me his son. And because of that, I have intrinsic value. I have nothing to prove to anyone else. Even if the whole world were against me, I have the Lord on my side. It's easier said than done, because obviously when we are rejected, when we do fail, we get a pit in our stomach. However, the goal is to constantly remind ourselves, and to go back to scripture, to talk to other people, to be reminded in whatever way that our value is in no way associated with what people think of us and with our performance in life. And so what makes being a Christian different is our value is not anything we have to earn. And we can breathe a sigh of relief because of that. We don't have to earn our value. In Christ, as a Christian, you receive your value from Jesus Christ. Your value is received, is gifted. I am gifted my value. I do nothing to earn my value. And then, because that worth comes from God, that worth is secure. That worth ain't going nowhere. That worth is always there, regardless of whether you're performing well or performing poorly, or whatever standards you have for yourself, or whatever standards the world puts on us, because God's love is secure. God will never leave us. Any of our mistakes, any of our shame, and this will be a future episode as well, like, there's a lot of ugliness inside of us. We've made a lot of mistakes in the past. We're not always putting our best foot forward. Does God run away when he sees that? Because if that were the case, then that love, that value would not be secure. However, time and time again in the Bible, God shows up. God shows up, and God reminds us that not only will I not leave you, I will chase after you. I will see everything about you. I will see everything that you've done. I will see every bad thought that you've had. I will see There's nothing that I don't know about you. I will see everything, and I will chase after you. And if that does not reassure us of our value, I don't know what will. So if you still feel like you are proving yourself every single day, take a step back. Is that how you want to live your life? Do you know that you're valuable? Do you feel like you're valuable? Do you live in a way that sprouts from knowing that you are already valuable and that you have something to contribute to the world? So, wow, what an episode. I am so excited for the episodes to come in this series. Please leave your feedback, your comments, how have you engaged with this episode? What were your self-reflections like? What have you realized? And this is just, again, I want to emphasize this in all of my episodes, which is like, this is not like, okay, now I need to change the way that I live and be completely perfect in it. This is a day-to-day struggle. It's a day-to-day battle. It's a day-to-day choice to wake up and say, I'm not going to go look for approval today. I'm going to feel secure in who I am. I'm going to go forth and do my work well and love other people. And that's hard to get to. And it's hard to maintain every single day, because guess what? We are limited people. We do make mistakes. And so it's just a matter of being curious about these questions, thinking about them, mulling them over, and making changes in your life where you're like, wow, do I feel at peace? Where can I find that peace? Who can I look to for deepest peace? So I'm going to end here on that today. I am so glad to have you here again. My hair has gotten frizzier by the minute, but that's summer for you. And I hope you'll join me next time. See you guys.